Well, as an Australian, I was ashamed to see thousands of people on the streets of Sydney and Melbourne at the weekend supporting the barbaric terrorist organisation Hezbollah. Sadly, I'm not surprised because we are led by a government that can't bring itself to support Israel's self-defence against Islamic rapists, murderers and kidnappers whose aim is to wipe Israel off the map. Since October 7 atrocities, the Albanese government has effectively green-lighted support for Hezbollah's ally in Gaza, Hamas. Foreign Minister Penny Wong always paints Israel as the aggressor, when the reality is there would be no violence in the Middle East if it were not for the Islamic terrorists who continue attacking Israel. If a foreign force was firing rockets into Australia, raping our women, murdering civilians and kidnapping our people, we would expect our government to use force as a deterrent to stop it. But all Wong has done is called for a ceasefire, continually implying that somehow Israel is the problem. I hope Australia is not under attack anytime soon while ever the Albanese government is in power. I'd have no confidence that our government would try and kill the leaders of those seeking to do us harm. It seems their only strategy would be to appease our attackers, thinking they could sit in a circle with them singing Kumbaya. I'm very proud to be wearing this badge today, an Australia-Israel Friendship Badge given to me by Australian Jewish Association head David Adler. I want to stand in solidarity with our Jewish and Israeli friends. As they're under attack, we should be supporting them, not going to the United Nations and pretending like they are the problems. All that is doing is enabling these ratbags that are on the streets of our nation sowing social discord. Anyone who is on a visa should be deported immediately, and the law should be brought to bear with its fullest force on those flying Hezbollah flags. That should all go without saying, but of course we have a government that's not showing any leadership or any moral courage. Now, speaking of the ineptitude of the Albanese government, the proposed communications legislation amendment Combating Misinformation and Disinformation Bill 2024 raises serious concerns about freedom of speech in Australia. Chris Merritt, the Vice President of the Rule of Law Institute of Australia and a columnist with the Australian newspaper, and the Australian Christian Lobby's CEO Michelle Pearce are among many prominent Australians speaking out against this bill. Merritt warns that the bill's vague language would allow the Australian Communications and Media Authority, that's ACMA, to become an arbiter of truth, enabling it to punish statements deemed misleading or deceptive based on broad and subjective criteria. Now, this opens the door to arbitrary government enforcement where officials, unelected officials, decide what constitutes so-called harmful misinformation. Michelle Pearce echoes these concerns, emphasising the potential threat for freedom of speech and freedom of religion, which is already under attack in big ways from this government. Even more alarming, the Communications Minister, Michelle Rowland, would have near unchecked power to expand the bill's reach and exempt certain businesses, bypassing parliamentary oversight. This concentration of authority poses a grave risk to democratic freedoms. Chris Merritt points out that history teaches us the danger of silencing dissent. Imagine if Winston Churchill's warnings back in the 1930s about Nazi Germany's rearmament had been suppressed as misinformation. That's where we're heading under this bill. Full credit to the Coalition for finally deciding to oppose it, but the question remains, why wasn't Peter Dutton and the Coalition more instinctive in opposing this right from the get-go? Sadly, this was an idea first cooked up when the Coalition was in government. We really do need a better class of politicians with a true moral compass and understanding of basic human rights such as freedom of speech.